Dragi ljubitelji, gledatelji i slušatelji podcasta Između redaka, dobrodošli u našu najnoviju epizodu. Ono što sam napomenula u prethodnoj epizodi jest da ćemo u sljedećih nekoliko epizoda imati isključivo autore. A ono što se do sada nikada nije dogodilo jest da u 2 epizode za redom imamo 2 inozemna autora. Moj današnji gost nije samo autor, on je i ilustrator. Njegova prekrasna djela, njegove prekrasne riječi i crteže mogu čitati ljudi u više od 20 zemalja, a s njegovim porukama poistovjetili su se mnogi, i mladi i stari. On je James Norbury. So, hello James.
Hello.
Thank you for visiting this studio and Croatia. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure.
I always like to ask foreign authors if this is their first time in Croatia, so...
Absolutely, yeah, it is.
I mean, it's not really the nicest season to visit Croatia, but still, I think that you'll enjoy yourself.
It's actually, where I'm from, it's just very, very rainy and very wet. So,
okay, and where is that? I know that you're from the UK.
Yeah, I live in a town called, it's a city called Swansea, which is in South Wales.
Okay, how many people are there?
I honestly don't know. It's,
I'm sorry.
No, I don't know the population, but it's a fairly busy city. It's reasonably sized. Second biggest city in Wales, and I live down near the coast, so we got a little coastal. It's always rainy, always windy, which I really like.
I just wanted to say that it really sounds nice until you mentioned the part with the wind and the rain. So I'm like changing my mind a bit.
We do have nice summers. We just have very, very hot summer, and that, you know, it's very glorious there. And we have quite a few of the sort of sites of sort of heritage sites, you know, where
that's really nice.
Preserved countryside and things like that. So it's a really nice place.
Are you asking Croatians to come and visit?
Yeah, come visit Swansea.
Yeah, and contact James.
Yeah,
he will be a wonderful host.
I'll show you around. Yeah.
How long are you staying here for?
4 days.
Okay, and what's in your itinerary?
I'm doing a few different podcasts and interviews with different journalists.
This is not your only podcast, James.
I don't know if the others are in podcast format, but I think they're interviews with a couple of newspapers.
Okay,
and
that sounds better.
Some magazines.
Thank you.
So, yeah, this could be the only podcast.
And are you going back to Wales, or are you having a book tour around Europe?
I'm going to Greece after this, to Athens and possibly Thessalonica, depending on the timing, to go to some bookstores, do a similar thing in Greece.
So a lot of nice places, right?
Lovely, yeah. I've never been to Croatia. I've never been to Greece, so that's quite exciting for me.
If someone told you like a couple of years ago that you'll be here in this podcast or in Croatia promoting your book, would you believe him or her?
I never. I've written since I was very small. I've written and created my own little books and things, and it was always my dream to have my book in like a proper bookshop, like your bookshop here, like that you could go in off the street and go, that's my book, and it would be at the back in the corner, but you could go and point at it. And the idea of having like something like this is just more than I ever conceived of.
Yeah, not just in the corner. I mean, we have a lot of your books downstairs. In our equivalent in the UK is called Waterstones. I know.
Oh, yes,
it's really beautiful. I visited this year and I was like overwhelmed. I was there for a couple of hours.
They're beautiful bookshops, and the one in Swansea, the whole window is full of my books.
Still?
Yeah.
Always.
Not always.
No, but they're certainly proud, and you're local, so it would be explainable. It's
just, gosh, you walk past and go, I just wanted one book on one shelf in one corner. That was all I wanted, and that's so yeah, it's very, very, very.
Yeah, maybe if you wanted like this, the whole bookshop window, then you would get like a corner book. So it's always the opposite, I guess, of what you want.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
How did the story with your books even start? You said that you always imagined having your book, but was it really your plan, or did you plan something else? I read something about you being a zoologist or something like that.
Yeah, although I always wrote and did art, what I actually wanted to do was be a zoologist, because I love animals and I always wanted to sort of save and help animals. That was my It still is something I absolutely love, but it didn't really pan out for various reasons. So then I carried on writing, and I self-published my books and tried to sell my drawings and paintings and things. And that sort of went okay. It just about paid the bills, but I basically had no money for maybe 20 years. I subsisted on very, very little. Then I studied spirituality because I was sort of having a rough time in my head, as it were. And so I thought, you know, if I found a book in a second-hand shop by the Dalai Lama, which I read, and I thought, oh, that's a whole new way of looking at the world. So anyway, I studied that for several years, and it had a huge impact on my life. I thought it was really good. I didn't really think much more of it. But then I worked for Samaritans. Do you have Samaritans? Yeah.
I don't think we do, but I know what it is.
It's like you listen to people on the phones who are having, you know, a bad time, sort of like a crisis.
We have something like called a Brave Phone, but it's usually for children who are experiencing some kind of difficult time, whether it's violence in the family or violence at school. But I don't think that there's an equivalent for grown-ups.
That's exactly, yeah, it's for anyone who's struggling, suffering. It can be anything from if you can't pay your bills to you're thinking of taking your own life, everything in between. And it's for children as well, anyone can call. And during that time, I thought that all the things that I had learned about mental health and how to sort of help yourself would be really valuable for the callers, but the Samaritans aren't allowed to give advice to the callers, so you can't share any of this stuff with them. So instead I thought I'd start a little group, like a little spiritual group, but I didn't really have the wherewithal to do that, and COVID came along, so I definitely couldn't do it. So instead I started to draw these pictures because I thought, well, that's a good way to get the ideas out. And I thought some of these ideas are quite complicated, so I thought I spent quite a lot of time working out how to condense quite a complex idea into a single image, because I thought that would be more digestible to you know, everyday people. They could just see it on their phone and go, oh, I like that idea, and then they can head off and find out a bit more about it if they wanted to, or if it doesn't appeal to them, fine, move on. And so I drew all these pictures. I did like 2 or 3 every week. And then they got really quite popular, so I thought, oh, I'll make a little self-published book, because I knew how to self-publish books. And I sold so many of them that I couldn't keep up with the postage. So I wrote to an agency, Eve White in London, and they said, yeah, we'll help you. And so they put together a proposition and sent it to publishers, and they got some offers and accepted the deal. And then that publisher works with Croatian publishers, and so you end up with this.
So you're here. Did you try maybe to publish your books through an agent or a publisher, the books you've written prior to these ones?
Yes, I did. I've written to a lot of agents in my time.
And how did it go?
Terribly. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I guess the other work I write is not. It's not the same as this. It's science fiction, fantasy.
Yeah, I saw something with like an android or something like that, or a robot.
Yeah.
And the cat.
Yeah, the cat. Yeah, yeah. I wrote all sorts of stuff. I wrote like books for children, and like just about a huge scope of genres. I wrote, and I do illustrated books and all that. But no one was ever interested. Most agents didn't write back, and those that did just.
A generic
standard
response, yeah.
Thank you, but no thank you.
Do you think that the quality of your book impressed them this time, or do you think that it was because you already had an established audience and like a lot of orders?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's the nature of the book. I guess because I had these, at the time, maybe 120,000 followers on Instagram, so I think the publishers already knew that there was a market for it, which certainly helped. So they didn't have to worry about whether people would like it or not. And I think the content does speak to people, quite a range of people as well, not just certain types of people. So I imagine, hopefully, publisher, the editor, whatever, he would look through it and instantly connect. If he's the right editor, which the editor, Michael Joseph Dan, he's awesome and he totally understands what I'm trying to do. So that's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, with this podcast, I know that a lot of authors are watching it, so I always want to convey the message that it's not only important to write the great book, it's also the whole package, because a lot of publishers are asking for it. Like they are asking for some kind of marketing plan, if you know any bloggers, etc., etc. Every publisher has its own structure when you're applying, when you're sending them your manuscripts. So yeah, I think that a lot of people turn out disappointed because they think that they have the next great book, and sometimes it just doesn't happen because there are a lot of manuscripts and you have to have a bit of more than just a book, which you thankfully had.
I guess so. I mean, I wouldn't profess to know a great deal about that kind of thing, but in my case, I think I was quite lucky because you can open, particularly this book, you can open it on any page and understand instantly what the book is about. You can't really do that with a novel. You know, you just open it on page 312 and start reading.
What the fuck is this?
This is for me. That's not quite such a thing with a novel. So you can show that to somebody and they get it straight away. And I think that's part of the appeal of it. And also, I think the existing following. I don't know. I don't know how easy it would be for if you just started writing your own book and you're like 30 pages in to have 50,000 followers from your first 30 pages. I don't know how feasible that is, but you can from a book that's more like that because it's not so story based, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, of course. And also we have to speak a bit about the time frame when it all happened for you and the books. That it was during the pandemic. Do you think that also influenced the success of your books?
I personally don't know, because people say it did. I think that it helped, but I think that the ideas that I try to tackle and talk about, they're universal ideas that have been... Of course,
it doesn't have to be a pandemic, right?
No, they've been with us since we were, for thousands of years. If you read old, the Buddha, who's supposed to be around 3,000 years old, talks about the same stuff. There's a lot of Buddhist influence in there. There hasn't been a pandemic for the last 3,000 years, other than maybe a pandemic of human suffering.
Or a plague or something like that.
So yeah, I think we've always, as long as we've been able to think and get trapped in our own minds and things, we've had these problems. So I think possibly people definitely did struggle more during COVID, and so perhaps they were more looking to books that might help them. But I think it would have done all right if there hadn't been a pandemic.
Okay, and what about the second very important influence, the influence of social media? If you've written and illustrated a book before Facebook, before Instagram, do you think that there would be a way for you to reach this kind of audience?
I doubt it. Because I drew the first sort of picture and put it up, I didn't think anyone would like it. And I think I had 3 followers for the first few weeks or something.
Your mom, your wife, and
my cat.
An imaginary profile of your cat.
So it started off slow, but I thought I'm going to stick with it. So do at least, say, 20 pictures and just do it for myself. And part of the reason I draw the pictures is for myself. So I'm going to do them anyway. And the following grew, and I went, oh, I've got like 500 followers. This is definitely worth doing. If there was no social media, how would you test the ideas? I don't think I would have sat there, put together, say, 80 drawings, and then sent them to an agent. I simply wouldn't have done it. So, yeah, if it wasn't for social media, I don't think there would be a book.
Yeah, you could always go like the old-fashioned way, to print it out on a postcards or something and go around your town and dealing it to the people.
That would have, that probably would have been quite successful, but that's not sort of, I wouldn't have been in my nature to do something like that, so I probably wouldn't have done it. I would have hidden in my house and hoped it worked. Which is the way I always work, and it doesn't work, surprisingly.
Yeah, I don't know why. What happened first, or what was first, the chicken or the egg? Are you first doing the drawings and then the text, or vice versa?
The text. I always do the text first. So the text is what takes me a long time to come up with, because I have to come up with an idea, which is often based on, say, if I have a negative feeling of some sort, which I'm sure we all get these negative feelings, you know, daily, and you go, that's interesting. But I've always been quite self-exploratory, so I would go, why do I feel like that? That's wrong. Like, why am I nervous coming to a podcast? That doesn't make sense.
We're nervous coming to podcast?
No, actually, today.
Yeah,
no,
thank you.
For a change. But I thought, okay, so say you're nervous. Why am I nervous? That's really weird. So then maybe I think, because I'm afraid of looking silly. And then I thought, well, who cares? So I thought, it doesn't matter if I look silly, you know, it's probably quite good for you to look silly. It will help to knock the corners off you. That's what
well, just imagine everyone's naked who is watching us.
Yeah.
They say that it helps, so.
Yeah. And so I would explore this idea and eventually try and listen to my own wisdom, if you like, which I think we all do have a wisdom in us, you know. It's just be quiet and think, oh, okay. And then I would try and condense that whole concept into a couple of lines, a conversation between a panda and a dragon, which is a bit of a weird way to go about it. But once I've sort of got the basics of the conversation, I would then do the drawing, and while I'm doing the drawing, I would go back and tweak the words to try and make it as eloquent as I can manage, and to try and make it so it has the broadest audience, so that it's not just for so that most people can get something out of it. So I realise that every picture is not for every person, but I try to make it so that the majority of people can get something out of it if they think about it.
When did you first started drawing? I think that I've read somewhere that you were self-taught, so you haven't studied it?
I did art at secondary school. Mm-hmm. You know, where you do like, I don't know, probably a total of 30 art classes over the year, but they were all just where you all sit around in a circle and draw a shoe. I don't know if do you do that over here? I don't know.
Yeah, we did.
So I wouldn't consider that really any kind of training. So yeah, but my father was an artist, is an artist.
Okay.
He wouldn't really do any formal teaching, but I was encouraged to draw since I was very small. So I used to draw cartoons when I was little, and animals. And so yeah, this is still almost cartoons and animals.
Was he maybe the first person you've sent your work, or are you afraid of his criticism?
Not afraid of his criticism as such. But I don't tend to. I wouldn't tend to share my pictures with my family because they wouldn't be my intended audience. No, I sort of no, I would just send it out into the wild via the internet and hope no one was too cruel. Did you have any cruel comments about your work? Yeah, there's just the nature of people, isn't it? Some people just can't help themselves. But,
yeah.
You know, I don't tend. I like to read and answer all the comments because the people are generally so positive and so kind, and I want to talk to them. But then sometimes stuck in amongst the comments is something a bit less nice, and it tends to sort of bother me a bit.
Why panda and why a dragon?
I think I'm not even sure it was a hugely conscious decision at the time. I think I always liked drawing goblins.
That certainly resonates with panda or a dragon.
But the goblins...
They're really similar.
They looked a little bit like the dragon.
Okay.
With the boggly eyes and the skinny. And then I think the panda because in a way, the panda's large and they're a very likable animal. Not many people dislike panda bears, do they? So they're sort of large and fluffy, and they come across as very approachable. I mean, if you actually approach one in the wild, that might be dangerous, but they do come across as big, lovely things, sort of gentle and playful. So I think they're sort of something reassuring about his presence. And then the dragon, he's small and skinny and fun, and also he's sort of the opposite of what a dragon should be. A dragon should be huge and majestic and powerful and wise, and he's really small tiny. And skinny and daft and naive. And so I think it provides a nice contrast. Also, artistically, there's a massive contrast between the two characters. You're not going to mix them up. And you can ride around on the panda, which is quite fun.
What's the main difference between them?
I think the main difference is that the panda is slower. He's kind of more what you call mindful, I guess. So he's slow and thoughtful, and he's learnt how to listen to his inner wisdom, if you like. As a dragon is all and so, charging around. But I like to think he's got sort of beautiful childlike naivety about him. So, and he should never stop doing that. You don't need to stop playing and stop being fun and daft and experimenting and getting things wrong. That's all really important. So I guess that, those are the main differences. But the dragon does listen to the panda. And also
eventually,
yeah, and occasionally the dragon helps the panda, which I like to, because I believe there's a deep wisdom in all of us. If we can, be quiet and listen to it, as it were. I do occasionally make it so it's the dragon that's the wise one, to sort of illustrate the fact that everyone has this kind of wisdom in them if they can work out how to hear it.
I think that I already know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Which character resonates with you more?
Well, it's an interesting question, actually, because the characters sort of are supposed to represent the two halves of my brain. So like I keep saying, the panda's like the wisdom at the back that's quiet, and the dragon is the sort of front. I don't know if they're really at the front, but that sort of impulsive. Let's go and be stupid.
There's a bit of you in both of them.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. Is how we humans are great. We can have a conversation with ourselves, going, "Oh, I should be doing this." Oh no, and we can sit there locked in our own internal conversations.
I mean, it's great when it's only internal. When you start speaking to yourself out loud, that's when it's becoming an issue.
It does. It happens more than you'd think, doesn't it? So yeah, that's exactly it. They're almost like the two halves of my brain having a conversation with each other.
You're here to promote the second book. I mean, the first and the second book, but the second book is a bit newer. It's called The Journey. What's the basic difference between the first and the second one? What can the readers who like the first one get from the second one?
Well, they're the same characters, and they're doing what they do best, sort of walking, through the wilderness and talking and sitting, drinking tea and all that sort of thing.
Bickering, maybe?
Bickering?
No.
I don't think there's any bickering. No, not really. But,
so then the dragon really listens to the panda. So.
Yeah. The main difference is that the journey is a story, whereas the first book was a series of independent images and texts. The second book is a story, and the reason for that is because I think there is a lot of concepts that can't be covered in a single panel. The conversation needs to be longer than sort of 2 sentences in order to convey what I'm trying to get across. So yeah, the entire book is one long story. So that's the basic difference.
I know that you were really influenced by Japan, and I also read on your page that you would really like to visit Japan, but at the point when you were writing the text for a web, you haven't still. Did you manage to do it? in the meantime? And if not, why?
Well, I am actually planning to go to Japan in the spring.
Oh, it's the most lovely season to visit Japan, so I've heard.
Yeah, it's when the cherry blossom falls. Yeah, so that would be that's the plan at the moment anyway. And I haven't spoken to them yet, but I would like to meet up with my Japanese publisher while I'm out there, because that would be fantastic. I would really like to meet them. But yes, I've wanted to go there since I can remember. So and now I have the chance, I will go.
Your books were translated in more than 20 languages so far. So is there a favorite one, or is there a language you would like your books to be translated into, and it still hasn't happened?
The Croatian one's my favorite.
I'm wondering what you will say in Greece.
I
will watch the podcast from there.
I was very flattered when Japan and China chose to translate it, because the book takes a lot of influence from Japan and China, and also it's got quite a lot of there's a lot of the basics are based in Buddhism, and so which is more prevalent over there, and so I was a little bit worried that they would read it and sort of think, oh, who does he think he is? You know, like, so the fact that
sharing our wisdom by himself
badly, you know, this isn't right. Oh, and I did feel a little bit that basically when China and Japan decided to publish it, I was really flattered with it. I thought that was fantastic. It's now on 32 languages, the first one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the wrong data then. Or maybe you haven't refreshed your page in a while.
I could be guilty of that. Recently Hebrew, which was quite exciting. There are, I don't know, Japanese was the language I sort of really wanted it translated into.
Is it from the back to front, like manga style or anime style?
It's not actually out yet.
No,
they're still working on it. So I think it will be out fairly soon, I believe.
Possibly in the spring of 2023.
Yeah. Actually, no, I think it's not backwards. No, I've seen a proof, a PDF. So no, it's not backwards.
How much work do the publishers or the editors usually have with your books? Is it like a done project? Can they do something different with the covers, or like this is it? You've sent that to them and they just translate it and that's it?
Do you mean with the non-UK publishers, or the
each and every publisher who published it outside of the UK?
All right.
Does it look the same like the Croatian editions?
Your Croatian editions look pretty much identical, except we don't have the publisher on the front there.
Oh.
Yeah. Other than that, they are absolutely identical. Although it's not required. Countries change the covers to reflect their audience. I particularly like the Taiwanese covers. They're really beautiful. They're all black and white, and they use images from within but they've got completely different art. It's almost unrecognisable. Most of the books do look roughly like this. But yeah, and I think Bulgaria, has done a very different cover. Because they're each...
they can choose, like, do you send more examples of what they can put on the cover?
They submit generally an idea to us, and we do get to have a say. If we really don't like it, we can say we really don't like it, and they will change. But, we have to have faith that the editor in the country knows their audience and will, make a good judgment. So...
do you have a publisher in your home country, or are you still self-published?
Oh, in the UK, no, we're with Michael Joseph, which is a division of Penguin.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they're a great publisher.
So you don't have to do everything by yourself anymore, right?
I don't. I just do the pictures now. I do the illustrations and the text, and I lay it all out the way, you know. So it's I provide them with a PDF, pretty much, of the book exactly how I would like it to be. Mm-hmm. And then the editor obviously goes through and he says, well, I wonder if this text might work better under here. And they tweak it slightly, but pretty much what you see is exactly what I send them. You know, and then they have, they tend to choose the covers.
Was it hard being self-published for the time being?
Me self-publishing this book?
Yeah.
It didn't last very long because it sold so fast that I was so overwhelmed that I only think I sold books for about maybe a month or 6 weeks.
Oh, that's really not long.
Yeah, and then I contacted, then the agent said to me that we've got some offers, and then I immediately had to sort of take the books down for off sale. So they're quite rare, the original ones. They're these little black and white books about that big.
Hardcover or?
Yeah, hardcover, black and white. They're smaller than that. There was much less pictures. I still got a box of them in my loft.
Maybe it will sell on Sotheby's auction.
You never know.
Once. But something that people can buy from your website are the postcards and the calendars you're making by yourself.
Yeah, I had to stop making the calendars because
you really need to refresh your page.
There's still calendars on my website.
I think that there are. I mean, that's the first I've heard of them when I was checking out your page. Maybe you've written that you made them, but they're not available to buy. Because I know that I was actually looking at the postcards and there were a price on them, and I think that I also saw the price for the calendars, like maybe £4, something like that.
No, the calendar I made in, I think, 2021 or 20.
Well, we'll check after the podcast.
Yeah. If it's there, it's no. I don't. Because
it's not right.
Because I just spent so long. I mean, the calendars I saw were the first thing I ever made. When the Instagram started to get popular, I thought, oh gosh, I could maybe supplement my income and make some calendars. So I thought, oh, I wonder how many I should order. Should I order 20 or 40? And then I thought, oh, I'll go big and order 40, and sold them in like 3 days. Oh, okay. And anyway, I ended up spending all day posting calendars. That's all I did. I didn't have any time to draw. So I stopped selling the calendars. And the postcards, that was the same thing. I went back when I just had the Instagram. I thought, oh, maybe I could make postcards. So I ordered quite a lot of postcards, and and I was sending them out. And basically, I've still got some left. Not many, but I don't want boxes of postcards at home, so I still sell them. But they will pretty much be gone in a month or so. I've got almost none of them left. So.
Did you ever think about some other merchandise like T-shirts or bags? Or do you have people that are thinking about that?
There are actually. I've had inquiries over the last few months from companies wanting to do some merchandising. I haven't done it myself. Really, I don't particularly know why. I'm not very commercially minded. So I think I just draw the pictures.
You just want to be left alone with your books.
Focus on the books. It's an awkward thing because you have to do really drop shipping. That's where you don't handle anything. It goes straight to another company who sends them out, which I did look into. But then when I got the samples back, the samples weren't very good, and I don't want people to have substandard things. Yeah. So I sort of got a bit fed up trying to find a good company that would be reliable and would do everything, and so I thought, oh, I'll just carry on drawing the books, drawing the pictures.
I will backtrack a bit on the translation bit. I don't know if the girls from publishing house still told you that, but the first book was translated by a relatively famous Croatian actor, Slavko Sobin. Do you think that it maybe influenced the sales in Croatia a bit, or do you get the information from other countries who translated your books, and why? Okay.
No, that's...
And did you know this information prior to me telling you?
The lovely lady downstairs did tell me about, I don't know, 25 minutes ago.
Okay.
And my first thought was that I would really like to, not because the person is famous, but I would just really like to meet the person, just to discuss, you know, the process of the translation, because I picked the words really carefully. So, and I'm sure because of the success, he's obviously, is it a he or a she? Sorry,
he. Slavko.
Oh, because the book is doing well, so obviously he's done a beautiful job of translating it. But English is known to be have a huge variety of words in it as a language, like one of the broadest languages in the world. So I always wonder what happens when you have a language with a smaller number of words, how you convey the subtleties. But obviously he has, because you know he's done a great job.
There were no complaints, and you would be happy to hear that he's really animal lover. So maybe you resonated on that level.
I'd love to. I don't know.
Maybe he'll come to the book promotion. I will ask the girls after this.
Yeah, maybe if I go through the publisher, maybe they can give me an email,
connect
and
you.
I can write to him and thank him.
Or what did you do with my book?
Well, something good, I guess. But yeah, I'd just be interested to hear about it, because yeah, I don't actually get a lot of feedback at all, really.
Well, that sounds sad.
I am really interested in it all, but I don't tend to hear very much at all. Some publishers they send back a lot of information. They send photographs of bookshops and look what we've done here. And other publishers I hear absolutely nothing from, which I'm not saying I should. I mean, they're busy doing their work and everything. But
it's nice.
I do like to see these things. They're really nice. But maybe they don't want to bother me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, in my experience with the publishers and foreign authors, our publishers are really serious about it, and they tend to get mad if someone outside their publishing house contacts the author, because they're always telling us they're super swamped, don't do that, we have to go through an agent, they can't reply, and yeah, so it's like a big no-no.
Oh no, I reply to everybody. Anyone who writes to me, I reply to.
Are you sure you want to say it out loud? Because maybe you'll get like thousands of messages from Croatian fans.
I don't mind.
Okay, so people contact James on his Instagram. Is this your job now? Like from 9 to 5? Are you a professional author and illustrator now?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have always been, actually, but I've just not been paid for it. Art and writing is what I've done since I was about since I left university. But I've always been terrible at marketing, so I've always been incredibly unsuccessful because I never effectively get my work out there in front of anybody. I sort of put it up on my website or something and expect people to naturally find it and buy it, and that just doesn't happen. So I've but yeah, now I actually get paid, which is quite nice.
And visit Croatia and Greece and Japan in the spring. The question most authors don't really like is always, what happens next? Or are you planning another book? What are your plans? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
One of the problems with the sort of work that I do is because it's sort of based in, if you like, spiritual concepts of spirituality. I kind of think to some degree there's a finite body of useful information. So I don't want to rehash it, if that makes sense, and drag it out
Like the TV shows that have 8 or so seasons.
Yeah, and they get thinner and thinner and weaker. I don't want to be in that position. As long as I have, I'm working on something at the moment, which I think is very solid, very valuable, and good stuff that will genuinely help people. When I've finished that, I'll, you know, sit and think and go about my life and everything, and if naturally an idea comes to me that I think actually that's a good idea, then I'll do something else. And if I can't think of one, I won't produce something just to write another book. I would hate to write a weak book that people thought, oh yeah, he's just, you know,
doing it for the money.
Yeah, I would. That would be awful. I would hate that. So I feel there's a few more ideas that are really worth doing, but I don't know how many.
Is there something that you would like to tell young authors or illustrators who are maybe worried or sad that their work isn't getting any recognition? Some wisdom from the Panda and the
Sure, I do. Dispense wisdom. Got a coin in my head. I can only speak from my personal experience, so I don't know how useful that would be to other people.
I mean, it seems useful, so.
I stuck at it like for years and years and years, despite like never really getting anywhere. That's one thing I could say to my credit, that I was persistent. You know, I just kept going. I kept trying different things. I didn't. You know, I've done graphic novels and science fiction and fantasy and tons and tons of different things. Even Lego animation movies I used to make. Yeah, you can see them online. Yeah, all sorts of things I tried. And eventually, one thing I tried worked. So, you know, you could probably take something away from that. I think a really good piece of advice is, for me, is that each of us is like a unique person. And I think I heard somebody say sometime, is to like sing a song that only you can sing, or something like that. Because, you know, your experiences, your voice, your life, what you're into, is totally different to mine. We will sing a different song. You shouldn't try and sing my song, and I shouldn't try and sing your song. And that unique blend of weird you-ness is what creates your special thing. And that's not going to be like anyone else's thing, hopefully. And it's very tempting to try and copy somebody else's thing because you see it's successful or whatever. So that's something I think is quite valid.
Okay, thank you for this great message, and thank you for this whole conversation. I'm really looking forward to your book promotion, which is happening also today, the day we're filming, and I hope that you'll enjoy your stay, and I hope you'll like Croatia better than Greece, and that Japan will be everything you dreamt of.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very excited, and thanks for the opportunity and for talking to me. Thank you.